This is True North Story, the original podcast series. Learn, love, listen, live. Are you ready to discover your True North Story? With your hosts, Tama Fulton and John Hudson Messerall.
I'm doing good. Just trying to make my way out of the mountains here.
James, I had no idea that you were born in Washington State.
Yeah, absolutely. I was born in Madigan Hospital on Fort Lewis, which I guess is Lewis McChord now.
Were you a military brat kid?
Yeah, I was. My dad has been a drill sergeant in the military, in the Army for the last 23 years, or not the last 23 years. He retired a couple years back. But yeah, so, I moved back and forth between my parents. My folks divorced when I was young. So I lived in Washington for all of my high school years, early childhood, and then in sixth grade. So I'm back and forth between Washington and North Dakota.
And then where did you get your accent?
I've been in Nashville for the last 18 years.
Oh, okay.
So, it's from living in the South.
Fair enough.
When in Rome.
Right, exactly. You got to fit in.
So true.
You did a little trout fishing yesterday?
Yeah, we went and did a little pheasant hunting in the morning and some trout fishing in the afternoon, and it was a successful day. That's a good way to relax when you're out on the road, you know. We spent a lot of time in rental cars and hotels, and so this was a chance to took a break and did a little fishing, a little hunting, and now it's on to playing another show.
You probably enjoy that.
Oh, it's awesome.
Tam and I have been thinking about this. You know, there are themes that start to bubble up from different people we've talked to, and some are similar and some are not, and that's the beauty of what we're doing. Kind of
Absolutely.
What led you, when did you know that music was in your purview, in your world, something that you were going to be involved in or something that you were passionate about? How did that manifest itself for you and when?
You know, I'd say I knew really, really early that I was passionate about music. Started on violin and moved into guitar, and then I played saxophone for a number of years in band in high school, and knew I think by before high school, probably junior high, that's what I wanted to pursue after high school, and it's just something that's been in my blood. My dad was a musician, his dad was a musician. And, nobody had any real success at it other than, they played in local bands and did their thing. And it was something that I knew I wanted to take seriously and put my efforts into. And I really wasn't very good at anything else. So I think that my parents were supportive because they knew that I poured a lot of my life into it. I'd spend hours a day playing guitar. So, not anything that was forced upon me. It was something that I was naturally drawn to.
How did you take it to the next level, James? How did Nashville come into your world?
Well, the funny thing is that it took a little while. Right after high school, I moved to Seattle looking for a country band, and the silliness of all of that now, looking back, is pretty evident. But it was 1992, the summer I graduated,
Yeah,
and
you were looking for
grunge.
You were looking for country in 1992 in Seattle.
Yeah, well, it was the closest place that I knew that had a music scene,
Yeah.
So I moved up there looking for a country band, and there was one country band in all of the area that I could find, and the band was called Led Stetson, which was a great country band name, but I wasn't even old enough to get into the clubs to go see them play. So basically got myself in a bunch of financial trouble, and my dad told me, he said, look, if you're going to move home, you're either going to go to college or you're going to go to the military, and I knew college wasn't in my plans because I was a terrible student and not what I wanted to do. So I signed up for the Navy and I went around the world. By the time I turned 21, I got out of the service and came back with a bunch of life experience. I had come back with the ability to be self-determined and I knew I could live away from home and I knew I could move to Nashville, and that's exactly what I did. So I've been there for around 18 years now, and it was the best decision I ever made. I think that, immersing yourself amongst the best in the world, which is what Nashville is. It's the culmination of all of the people from around the world that want to be involved in country music. And you have to go down there and put yourself in that league and see if you can compete. And that definitely hones your skills and makes you sharper. And it's been really good for me.
So what was that like? I mean, that's a bold move. You're coming out of the military. Did you have any contacts, friends, family, relatives, people that you knew in Nashville, or were you coming into town just a complete and total stranger? And then how did you start to nibble at the edges and start to maybe get to know people or start to build relationships that could help you along your journey once you got there?
I didn't know a soul. I knew no one in Nashville. My drummer in my band back home in the Tri-Cities, John D. Hart, said, hey, I got a friend down there. And what I did is I packed all my things into a U-Haul and moved down and stayed with my drummer's buddy for about a month until I found a place to live and figured it out. And from there, I got a job. I started going to songwriter nights every night that I could go. I was essentially in a songwriters club 7 nights a week. I'd work, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And the good thing for me is I got a job driving an oil truck around Middle Tennessee. And so during the day, I'd write songs in my truck and, deliver oil. And at night I would hit the songwriter clubs and play the songs that I'd been writing. So it was great education to go and sit at these songwriters clubs and listen to these amazing writers play these hits that they had written for people. And so I'd get to talk to them and have a drink with them and make friends with them. And, eventually was able to get writing appointments with them. That's an education you can't get anywhere else. When you can sit with a hit songwriter, somebody that actually has had things on the radio, and they teach you, what they know. And that was a huge influence on me for sure.
So you were writing music. You were writing the lyrics and the music together?
Oh yeah. Yep. I already had a pretty good handle on my instruments. So I was playing guitar but on the road, I would just sing melodies into or lyric ideas into a tape recorder when I was driving. So I just would build the chord structure up around them after I got out of the truck and come up with songs. So, I look back on that time as hugely influential on the rest of my life because, it was time that I needed to spend working on my craft.
And so then what transpired? Were you singing these songs that you'd written at these songwriter nights, or were you just taking in everything you could?
Both. I would go and when you're the new guy, when you're unproven, you don't get to play till the end of the night, right? So I would be, over the course of the night, I would watch people like Tony Lane, who's had hits for all kinds of people from Leanne Womack to George Strait to all the, and there's a bunch of different guys like that. Whitey Schaefer, who'd written, all of these amazing classic country songs, and then young up-and-comers just like me. So I would be immersed in songwriter culture, watching these guys play every night, thinking, my music is terrible compared to what these guys are writing. I don't know if I'll ever get to that place, but it's a skill that you can develop. It's like anything. If you put enough time into it and energy into it, you figure out what makes a good song. You figure out the tricks of the trade, and there's a craft to it that you learn. And so I learned the craft, and I basically put in the time, 10,000 hours, probably quite a bit more than that over the course of the last almost 20 years. So I've put in a lot of time and energy into studying what those guys do and how they craft a song. And so that was tremendously important to me. That was my college. That was my education, no doubt.
It's really interesting. I think sometimes that we are looking so far ahead at the end goal that we want or that we desire. Sometimes we miss the journey and the beauty of the journey along the way. So if someone were starting out and doesn't have the 10,000 hours in like you have, what would you tell them? What would be some of the encouragement that you would share with them along the journey?
Well, I'll tell you what, the first thing that I tell people that want to be in the music business is if you can see yourself doing anything else and being happy, go do that thing. Because the music business is not easy. It's a place where not very many people make it through, but if that's the one thing that you're passionate about, and the only thing that's going to make you happy is to pursue that goal, then you have to immerse yourself in it, and you have to go. I very much recommend, and I don't think it can be done to the level you see. You want to be Luke Bryan, you want to be one of the big stars, or you want to be a big songwriter. I don't think you can do it outside of Nashville. I really don't. I think that you need to go in and immerse yourself in the culture, immerse yourself in amongst those people that are the best, and learn from them. Learn what makes the town tick, learn what makes the business work, and find your way. I think that it makes you stronger. I think that it makes you smarter. I think that it makes you much more ready to compete. And it's a competition. There's no question about it. There's only so many slots open for people. And these days, it's much more difficult now than it was in the past with, Nashville's lost 85% of its professional songwriters during this last half of a decade of streaming music. It's just kind of torn the lungs out of the music business financially. So it's a difficult place, but you can win if you are willing to dedicate your life to it. And that's what it's got to be, at least that I've ever seen, is come in and put everything else on hold, and this is what you go after and pour your heart and soul into. And man, I've been very blessed to be able to not have to have a regular job for the last 18 years. I do what I love every day, and that's I sit down and write songs pretty much every day that I'm in town. To be able to do that, tremendous blessing. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of heartache at times, but ultimately to do what you love is a blessing. So I'm one of the lucky ones.
That's really, really great advice, James. And the theme I hear you saying is hone that craft.
Well, yeah, it's about work. To me, I've always heard, even like the guys in Fleetwood Mac talk about, I heard them talk, what's the best thing you can do to help yourself? And they said to write every day, no matter whether you feel like it or you don't, write every day. And that, for anything that you do that you want to do in the creative world, it's work on that craft every single day. Put the hours in and develop that. And eventually you're going to get it, and I think that's hard work is important. And thinking that something's going to come to you easily, especially in this business, forget about it. It's never going to happen that way. So you're going to have to put in the hours and really develop it and build relationships. Relationships are tremendously important. It is partially it's what you know, but a lot of it is who you know. And learning from those people is tremendously important.
What makes a really compelling country song, James? There's so many are about stories.
Mm-hmm.
What, for you, is it an experience that you've had, something you've seen? What makes a really great song in your eyes?
A song can be born out of all kinds of different things. I think the best songs are songs that people can see themselves in. They see a bit of their own life in what you're saying. When we wrote In Color, Jamey Johnson and I and Lee Thomas Miller, it's about putting real life into it. It's about being able to convey the human condition and what motivates us and those stories into 3.5 minutes.
If it looks like we were scared to death, like a couple of kids just trying to save each other, you should have seen it in color. A picture's worth 1,000 words, but you can't see what those shades of gray keep covered. You should have seen it in color.
I think the main thing is trying to get real life into it, is trying to pour your soul into it and make people feel that emotion that you feel when you're writing it, when you're living it. And if you can do that, people will see themselves in your stories. And I think that's the best way to get people to care about what you're trying to say.
Well, and that's really interesting because Tim and I talk about personalization of storytelling. And right now we're living in a culture that's all about stories, or at least that's what we're being told. Everything is a story. Mm-hmm. And storytelling, and it transcends music and film and all these different marketing and branding and everything else. I think you touched on something, and that is that for someone to see themselves or a part of their life in that song or in that story or in what's happening or being told in that song, it requires the person who wrote it to have kind of lived it. To make it authentic or believable or credible to that person, there has to be some reality in there, right?
Yeah, to live it, or at least to have some. You watch the people around you. You're. I think that
right.
The best songwriters are good studies of people, and they know how to convey that emotion of everyday life and bring out the extraordinary in everyday life and tell those details. And hopefully that's what you do every day. I mean, there's certainly songs on the radio that aren't deep, drawing on the human condition. They're just more fun, and those songs are okay too. But the ones that really last are the songs where you can relate to other people, where you can tell somebody's story and make them be real to people that don't even know them, because it makes a convincing story. It tells a truth about people in general.
Well, okay, let's think about this for a minute, James. Like you had referenced earlier that the music business has changed and that the lungs of some of the really, really good, talented songwriters have kind of been taken out by the change of the financial landscape, if we want to call it, of the music business. For example, one song that always stuck out to me, it just really resonated to me on many levels for a lot of reasons, was Gary Allan's song "Smoke Rings in the Dark." And
great song.
You could just tell that's an amazing song. Anyone who's ever been in a relationship like that, you know what he's talking about in that song. I mean, it will suck the wind out of your lungs. Like you'll be like, oh man. My point is if we're losing some of that songwriting community because of a financial. How do you see that today, tomorrow, 10 years from now? Can we get it back? Is the talent less now because these folks are no longer less involved? Or what does that look like?
Here's the big concern is that, the talent pool isn't as deep as it used to be because of that. And so I think that you're going to get more disposable music. And I think that that's the way that we've been seeing the industry go is that, over the last couple of years, how many songs about dirt roads and tan legs and, tailgates and all that stuff have we heard? It's been a constant theme. And luckily I see the winds turning a little bit to, the Chris Stapletons of the world, the
a little more
Brandy
substance.
Clarks, the really truly talented people, the ones with artistic integrity and something to say are starting to get a little bit of a voice. And I think that people are hungry for that. So, I'm not sure exactly what the fallout will be. I know that taking 85% of the professional songwriters out of the business means that there's not as many songs. It means that there's not as many stories being told, which means there's less water to be drawn from the well, and so I think that becomes a problem. I think that we'll get less great art than we would have gotten. And, it takes people have to support what they love. If you love music, but you don't buy it and you don't pay back into the system, you're not going to get much back out over the years because people are not going to be able to support their families off of that. And that's the big fear that we have in Nashville is seeing that creativity sucked out of the town by greed. And so it's been a hard couple of years on creators, and I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. But hopefully, we'll see the tides turn and people start to care about that again.
True North Stories, meant to inspire, encourage, motivate, and offer hope. And now, back to the program.
Speaking of music and people relating to music, 2008 was a big year for you, James. Totally came into my purview, your number one hit. Did you write that? And if so, tell me why you think maybe it became so popular and why people really related to it.
Yeah, I did write that song. I wrote it with a couple of buddies of mine, and it was I have no idea why it did what it did. I think it struck a chord, though, and that's the thing. It was a song that I thought was really cool, and it had a great feel and was soulful and kind of sexy, and I think that resonated with the target audience of country music, and I think that I'll say that I feel incredibly blessed to have been a part of that thing, because that song did way more than I ever expected it to.
To go now, honey, call him, tell him you won't be in today. Baby, there ain't nothing at the office so important it can't wait. I'm thankful for the weekend, but 2 days in heaven just ain't gonna do. Yes, it's gonna take forever, darling girl, I just got started loving you. What's the point in fighting what we're feeling? We both know we'll never win. Ain't this what we're missing? Let's just stop all this resisting and give in. Let me wrap my arms around you. You know you don't want to leave this room. Come back and let me hold you, darling girl, I just got started loving you. What can I say? I've never felt this way. Girl, you're like a dream come true. After all the love we've made, it sure would be a shame if we let this moment end so soon. So won't you lay back down beside me, girl, just like I know you want to. Trust me when I tell you, darling girl, I just got started loving you. I ain't gonna stop. For the weekend, but 2 days in heaven just ain't gonna do. Yes, it's gonna take forever, darling girl, I just got started loving you. Come back and let me hold you, darling girl, I just got started loving you.
Probably written nearly 2,000 songs since I've been in Nashville, and you know, there's songs that I love that I've written, and there's songs that I think are junk, and that song was something that I thought was a good song, but I never in my wildest dreams expected it to be the most played song in country music in 2008. I don't think anybody could have predicted that, but you know, there's things that come together with that. It was the right feel. I guess my voice worked on the track, and people really loved it. And I'm so thankful that they did. I wish I had more insight to why it worked, but I really don't know.
Well, it certainly did.
You want to replicate that, exactly.
Oh, yeah. If I knew exactly how it worked, I'd be doing it time after time.
Well, you've got one of your most recent, Somewhere Tonight. You said,
Right.
I read you saying that song was, you kind of held on to that for a while.
Yeah, I really love that song. You know, it's simple. It's a super simple song, but the feel of the song it felt like something you couldn't ignore when it came on, and it made you tap your foot immediately, and it made you, you know, it brought you into it.
for the weekend. There's a buzz in the air, don't you feel it? A kiss on your lips, wanna steal it. Come on, pretty baby, don't you say no. How we gonna fly if we lay low? Don't know what we're missing if we don't go. Somewhere tonight, music's playing, bonfires blazing like a Vegas sky. Somewhere tonight, dance floors rocking, no sign of stopping till the morning light. Somewhere tonight, let's go. Somewhere tonight, let's go. Somewhere tonight. Girl, I'm the gas, you're the matches. Let's fire up a little bit of magic. Don't you wanna see what's happening? Somewhere tonight, music's playing, bonfires blazing like a Vegas sky. Somewhere tonight, dance floors rocking, no sign of stopping till the morning light. Somewhere tonight, let's go. Somewhere tonight, let's go. Somewhere tonight. Anywhere you wanna go, any place you wanna be. Don't give a damn what we do if it's you and me. Anywhere you wanna go, any place you wanna be. Don't give a damn what we do as long as it's you and me. Somewhere tonight, somewhere tonight, music's playing, bonfires blazing like a Vegas sky. Somewhere tonight, dance floors rocking, no sign of stopping till the morning light. Somewhere tonight, let's go. Somewhere tonight, let's go. Somewhere tonight.
Didn't pitch that song around to anybody else because it was something that I wanted to put on my record. You know, we went at that thing completely independently, and it has done exceedingly well for the money that we put into it, and doing it on an independent label. I was very heartened and felt great about how well it performed. And it's a business. The country music business is, and country radio is, and so it's got a couple different layers of success. And my idea of success today is really more: can I do what I love musically? First off, if I can do that and make enough money to support my family and not have to have a job, that's success to me. You know what I mean? I don't want to spend the rest of my life on the road, because I want to be with my child and my wife, and I want to write songs. Right now, I'm able to do those things on an independent basis, and that is success to me. And I think that redefining success was important for my own sanity, and going, I spent so much time on the road when Just Got Started Loving You came out. I think I was on the road for 300 days out of 365 for the first year.
Wow.
And it's, I was in my own bed less than 30 days that year. And it kind of a rat race, and so I pulled back a little bit and did my thing. So I'll be releasing music independently in the future here. And I'm working on a brand new record. And so you'll be hearing more from me, I'm sure, here in the future.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for my buddy John, my co-host who you're talking to, tell about how you got to write a song for the Atlanta Braves.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't even write that song. The funny thing is that I got called in and asked if I would, if I was interested in singing the theme song for the Atlanta Braves. And I was like, well, yeah, I love baseball. That'd be great. I'd love to do that. They pulled me into a studio and had this song written and asked if I would be a part of it. And after I listened to it, I thought, man, that'd be a blast. And pretty cool to go down to to the stadium and stand on the field and shoot a video for it and be involved. And they played that for a couple of years in a row.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. It was a fun little project to be a part of.
So real quick, when you're talking about being on the road 300 nights, out of the year, and is that a byproduct? I mean, I know musicians have always toured. They've always gone out, and there's big money in touring. You can make big money touring.
Yeah.
Is that kind of more and more necessary because of the change in the music sales of perhaps downloads versus albums and CDs that you got to go out on the road more?
You could definitely have made a living in the past. In fact, a lot of songwriters, didn't have to have a hit on the radio. It is, people used to buy records back in the day,
right.
and so we went from selling albums with 10, 12 songs on them to selling singles for 99 cents, now down to streaming at micro pennies per stream. And so, it took where you could make a living off of a cut on a record because, you'd sell a couple million copies of an album and a guy could make a living off of that to, you're down to those micro pennies now from streams and you're going to have to get out on the road and figure out how to, make a living in the clubs again and in, around the country. And, definitely. And that's part of why I spend a lot of time on the road playing shows. But I got, honestly, I got to say that I don't think I would really feel complete if I didn't go play shows as well, though. It's something that I really love to do still. Go and play in front of a live audience and to feel that energy and to feel that connection is important for me. Now, not all songwriters are performers. A lot of guys aren't even good singers, but they are excellent songwriters, and they can tell a story like nobody else. And so those are the guys that I worry about the most are the guys that aren't really artists, but they're just writers. And there's lots of those guys, and the community is less rich for them not being involved, and so those are the things that we're going to miss out on.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking when you were mentioning songwriters, I don't know why, because he was a performer too, but I think of Chris Christopherson,
there you go.
And here Janis Joplin had the biggest hit with a song he wrote. You hear him sing Me and Bobby McGee, and it's horrible in my opinion.
Yeah,
but you hear her sing it. It's huge. You take Sunday Morning Coming Down, Johnny Cash made a huge hit, another Chris Christopherson song that when he sings it is less than stellar. But then you look at Chris Christopherson as an actor, he was amazing. You look at him as a storyteller and as part of the bigger crew that Johnny Cash and all of them were on tour. There were 4 of them. Really, really amazing. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I have just one or two more questions I thought would be really interesting.
Sure.
One is, Tama and I are going round and round. We're talking about this. There's a little bit of a resurgence in vinyl again. We were talking about albums versus, a downloadable song at 99 cents. Is that tracking at all in country? Or, I just saw a thing where a musician or a star today is releasing some of his albums on vinyl, and he was signing them. Is that is country starting to embrace that a little bit, where people will go out and maybe buy an album on vinyl again?
I think what you're seeing is there is a certain segment of the population that really loves that deeper connection to music.
Right.
And those are the ones that are buying up albums. They're the ones that are actually going out and purchasing the vinyl and wanting that connection to the music. There's a whole different level of commitment when you listen to vinyl. You know what I mean? Because the engagement you can't
goes
just
way up.
Absolutely. You're engaged when you listen to vinyl, because you can't just put it on and walk away from it. You have to, you want to put on an album and listen to it all the way through. You got to flip the record over. You got to, and you got to take care of that product. And so I don't know that the wider country radio listeners, like the big population of country radio listeners, are going to be vinyl buyers, but the people that get into like Chris Stapleton or Jamey Johnson or artists like that are people that they really care about the quality of music. They really want to find something a little bit deeper. And I think that deeper music lends itself to people that want to buy vinyl because they crave that connection. And guys like that are making emotionally charged music. And I think that it works. But, do I think that, that the country audience is going to go out there and buy Luke Bryan vinyl in large degree? I don't think that that's the audience for it.
We were talking, John and I were talking, remembering, and you probably do too, James, you bought that album and you sat with friends and you listened to the music and you read the album and then you read the liner notes and you sang along to the lyrics and
the cover art.
I definitely was that guy.
It was engaging. Yeah. You were engaging with music. That now with all this digital stuff, we've lost that. Speaking of Chris Stapleton, we only are playing his single. His folks call all the time. Where's the rest of the album? There's a whole album out there.
Right.
We want to hear more. They love it. They feel that music. It's an emotional reaction to it.
Well, because it is an emotional reaction. It's a visceral reaction because when you hear him sing, it's real. You know immediately that there's passion behind that it's not some BS lyric about trite garbage. It's real and it's real. Genuine. And I think that's catching on. And I hope to God for all of our sakes that more of that gets a chance, because that's why I got into music in the first place, was authenticity. The people that I really loved the most were legitimate artists. They were connected to their art. They wrote their art. They poured their heart and soul into it. And it wasn't just a commercial product. And I like seeing that return. I have heart, and it gives me faith that there could be a movement towards that kind of thing. We see people thirsting for authenticity in other aspects of life, from food. They want to make sure that their food has no antibiotics in it, and it's all true, and it's all what it's supposed to be. I want to see that in music as well. I think that the auto-tune generation it doesn't take a lot of talent. We can kind of give you that in the studio generation. I'd like to see that go away and it go back to be about singers and songwriters and authenticity.
Love that word.
I do too, and Tam and I talk about that a lot. I mean, I'm probably too old school in that regard, but I grew up, my daddy was listening to Johnny Cash records and Merle Haggard and, old school
the good stuff.
Guys and gals like that. And you're going, wow, you drop a needle on Johnny Cash, there's some weight there. You know what I mean?
There is.
You're feeling the truth. You mentioned early in this podcast about disposable music, and I know exactly what you're talking about because Tam and I discussed that. And it's not just in music, it's in other areas. It's in writing, and it's in filmmaking, and it's in a lot of other places. And we've got to get back to demanding more in terms of that type of entertainment that we consume that's based in truth and authenticity and real talent, that someone has put 10,000 hours like yourself into honing that craft. And that cream rises to the top. It's okay. It's not okay. You skip the song. You don't buy the song. You don't care about the song. There needs to be an increased level of engagement and interaction in your heart with it.
We in Nashville, we've all, vanilla sells more than, Rocky Road does. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's easier for everybody in the town to continue to write vanilla and to continue to put out vanilla. It would be better for us all to have some more diversity to really crank up the authenticity level. I think that if you're going to make vanilla, at least make the best vanilla you possibly can, And I
wonderful.
think that I want to see more of that variety. I want to see more of putting heart and soul into what we do. And when I see it starting to really pay off and artists to come out that are real, I mean, and the public buys that, it's a heartening thing. And right now I'm excited to see what comes out of Nashville in the next 5 years, because I think that there's a movement towards that.
James, you talked to me about wanting to do your own podcast. I totally think you should. I think you would be a fascinating host, and you seriously, you
Thank you. I really do want to do it. A couple of my friends have been talking to me about it, and I would love to do my own podcast. I think it's a brilliant way to be able to communicate, and it's something that I actually listen to a lot in the car is other podcasts. So something I have some interest in doing.
You're
For sure.
You're a very articulate man. You're smart. You got street cred. You have, I'm sure a Rolodex full of songwriters and artists and musicians that could really dig into all of this about authentic music, and I think people will resonate with it.
Well, that's exactly where I would like to pour my efforts into is to interviewing artists and writers and that kind of thing, and talk about how their struggles to do that very thing, because it is hard. It's a difficult business, and it's hard to stay true to yourself and hard to follow that passion when you have to pay the bills. I think that's what it comes down to, is people get to the place where they're, I've followed my heart and my passion as long as I can, and now I got to follow a paycheck. So,
Right.
it would be an interesting thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. So if folks want to find out more about James Otto, do you have social media sites?
I do. If you go to my website, jamesotto.net, there are links to all of my social media sites. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram mostly, and I handle all that stuff myself. I don't have people on the payroll handling it, so send me a message.
Now, is it your label that's Otto, Otto Pilot?
That's my label, yes. Autopilot Records.
Are you an aviation fan too?
I like that stuff, but no, I just thought it made a lot of sense. I'm kind of flying my own plane.
There you go.
I'm either gonna make it take off, or I'm gonna run it right into the side of a mountain. I'm not sure which yet.
You're gonna soar, James. You are gonna soar.
Thank you. I hope so. Well, hopefully we get to talk again.
I'd like that very much.
Thank you so much for your time, James. It's such an enlightening conversation. I really enjoy getting a chance to talk to you and learn from you. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to True North Story, the series. Follow us on Twitter @True North Story, and tune in next time for another True North Story.